What is a great conversion rate and what is stopping your customers from buying? On the podcast today, I'm joined by Pip Hounslow, a Shopify expert and web designer who's going to be talking all things conversion rates.
Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing: breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business.
Welcome to the podcast. Today's episode is with Pip Hounslow, who is a small business Shopify web designer and has made, how many websites do you think you've made now, Pip?
I literally have no idea. Quite a lot now. I was keeping count and it's got a little bit, because I dabble in quite a lot as well, rather than just like building them all from scratch. So I help quite a lot of people as well. So I don't know, over 100, I'd probably.
So you've got a lot of expertise in Shopify, and
Yeah.
what we're going to be talking about today is about website conversion in general. Obviously, a lot of people listening will be on Shopify, but I think everything we're sharing will be relevant probably no matter what platform you're on. So let's start off by defining a conversion rate. How do you calculate it and what is normal, quote unquote?
These are Shopify's benchmarks. So, and a really, really good conversion rate is sort of 3.5% up. And then most people are sitting between 1.4 and 2.5. But if you're on less than 1%, then there's like a block. There's usually some kind of block on there that's stopping people from buying or making them hesitate that little bit too long. But yeah, so you can work it out. You can do it the long way if you want to know the actual technical way of working it out. So it's your total orders divided by your total visitors and then times by 100. So if you had 50 orders and 2,000 visitors, so it would be 50 divided by 2,000 times 100, and that would equal 2.5%. That would be your conversion rate. But you can also go, if you're on Shopify, go into Shopify Analytics, and there's a section in there where you can like do a comparison over days, weeks, months from different quarters or however you want to measure.
You can see it right. It's right there on your analytics dashboard, isn't it? Yeah, which is great. Makes it so much easier than some platforms.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really interesting. So basically, I think people often, when they first start talking about conversion rate, people are often really shocked by just how low it really is in general. But obviously, we know that, if you're at 3.5% and above, then that's really good. Do you feel like it's related at all to the price of the products? So do you find that people who've got higher, for example, if you're selling a £600 dress, do you think, generally speaking, your conversion rate's going to be lower than someone selling, I don't know, stationery at sort of £10-15?
Well, I think the people that are going to go and look at a £600 dress are not the same people that would be looking at sub £10 stationery. I do know that if I'm on Instagram, if it's not, the pricing's not clear, I will go and have a little look. So it might be that if they're running ads, they will get a lot of click-throughs because their clothes are very pretty, and then they're, oh my God, that's £600, click off. So potentially if they're running ads would probably be a bit lower. And with regards to I love stationery, so that's a very good example for me. I'm very likely to go and buy it. But yeah, you get more of an impulse buy. It's more of like an impulse buy thing. So if that was on an ad and you were running and that came up and you're like, oh, I quite like that, you'll be more likely to impulse buy it than you are a £600 dress. So it depends who it's targeted at. But yeah, I mean, probably a higher cost item will be looked at a lot, especially if they're running ads, not necessarily bought.
So it's not necessarily true that the higher your price point, the lower your conversion then necessarily?
Not necessarily. It kind of depends. I mean, if you've got your, if it's ads and you've got your targeting properly, then maybe you do have a good conversion rate. It honestly just depends what you're selling and who is looking at it. And if you're targeting right, I mean, people targeting me for a £600 dress, I'm sorry, but they're out of luck. I'll have a look, but I'm not going to buy it. So yeah, it's all in the. It depends who's looking at it, but yeah, it's not necessary, not necessarily different.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's good to hear. So you mentioned there that if your conversion rate is, say, lower than about a 1.4, 1.5, that there's going to be something there that's stopping people from buying. So what are some of the most common mistakes that you see on product business websites where they are doing something that is stopping people from buying?
Yeah, one of the main ones is photography. And I'm not saying people should invest in a professional photography session, because they can be expensive and small businesses don't necessarily have a budget. But everybody has a window and most people have an iPhone. So you can get some really good quality, in focus, bright images without spending like hundreds or thousands of pounds. But yeah, having a clear sort of high res images in use, like one that's in use, a lifestyle shot, somebody holding it to scale, and then a plane background. Because if you wanted to submit your products for like gift guides and stuff, then they'll want the plain image one. So to have one of those is quite good, and it also looks quite nice as a catalogue of images. So lots of people overlook that and will quite often have dingy and dull images, and that's not. People can't imagine that in their house. They want to imagine that thing in their house or in their hand or on them. And you need to get that across in the photography. So lots of people just do overlook that and just assume any old picture or a mock-up. A mock-up picture is not going to work either, because there's no sense of scale. The person that's pussy, if you have like a print and you put that onto a mock-up, you've got no idea how big that is and nothing to relate it to. So yeah, photography is the main one.
So you would suggest having somebody holding it, or somebody, I mean, Amazon have got their kind of little diagram, haven't they? It's like a outline of a person, and the person is holding, the sizing thing. Yeah, that definitely is. That's always my biggest bugbear, is when I go onto jewelry websites and they've got earrings and they just show the earring and they don't show it on an ear. And I'm always like, I don't know what 7
idea. Like, is that like
is.
a tiny hoop, or is it a hoop, or like, no idea. So giving some sense of scale and giving people a chance. I mean, I put the Amazon size thing it does do its job. It's not very pretty, but it does do its job. So I would tend to put the thing like in your hand, or something, just as like a more personal.
So you think that that's probably like the biggest blocker then? People
land on the website. I mean, there's quite a few. Photography is one that people overlook when it's just so important on your website. It can like make or break the design of a website. Somebody's got bad photos, then no matter what the layout or what you're including, the photos just aren't selling your product for you. So yeah, I think that one. There's also like product descriptions are quite often overlooked. Like people will just plonk anything in.
Yeah.
And it can be, and then have the same thing over multiple products, which is not very good for SEO either, because you're not, you're basically going to rank for the same thing on multiple products. And there's no sort of benefits added to them, sort of like, why should people buy that product? What problem is it solving? Sort of a benefit-led description is one, again, that's overlooked.
Right. Okay. So, and I suppose going back to imagery for a second, is that sometimes a difficult conversation you have to have with people if you're redoing their website and and then you're like, okay, well, I can redo it, but the imagery's got to be upgraded.
I actually had that conversation very recently with a brand, and their whole website was black,
right,
dark, and I was like, that's not the vibe. And all their photos were dark, and they basically did a full reshoot of all of their images, and then we even got them to do like a video for the homepage at the top, and it just completely changed the whole look. And they went with it. They were like, oh, we like dark, and I was like, you don't want dark. You're not having dark. So they just went with it. It looks so nice now. But yeah, they did a full brand, like a new photography thing, which was really good, really worthwhile.
Yeah. So obviously we talked about imagery, we talked about product descriptions, or we touched on that. So having really good benefit-led product descriptions where people actually understand why they should be buying something, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And not the same ones.
No, not the same ones for every product. So it's basically having like what you sell, who it's for, and why it matters. That's quite a good sort of basis for your product description. So it can speak to particular people. You know, if it's vegan or anything that you maybe take for granted about your products, other people might be like, oh, okay, so it's sustainable. I'll like put that in there. They're sort of really pushing the benefits of that product onto a person. Like you speak to people buy from people, and so you're actually speaking to a person, and they might just see themselves in that issue and be like, oh, that will solve my frizzy hair problem. So I've also done that.
So I know that product descriptions is one of those tasks that a lot of people just find really, really tough and tedious.
Yeah, especially when you've got a big catalogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm all for not trying to do it all at once. Just work through, and you start with your bestsellers and reassess those, and just make sure they're individual to the product. Basically, don't assume, don't just make them the same. For if you've got like a conditioner and a shampoo that are doing the same job, just try and tweak them a little bit to be more about that, like what that particular thing is doing.
Rather than just copy paste.
Yes, no copy paste.
So when you're designing, and you're designing presumably, the purpose of the website is to convert, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the key elements that you want to see on every homepage, every product page?
I'd say on the homepage is what you sell, who it's for and why it matters. Like right up there on the banner, that first bit, rather than like, welcome to my shop. It needs to be sort of speaking to a person, like, I don't know, natural. So I've got one here. It's natural skincare for sensitive skin, made in the UK and backed by dermatologists. That sort of like covers all of them things. It's very clear what they sell. And then having a clear call to action button beneath that. So for that one would be like shop skincare, and all above the fold, very clear what you do and you sell, and hopefully you'll get people in quicker because it's super clear. And along with that is making sure your navigation is, again, very, very clear, rather than shop and then a list of collection names. It's like having it, like if you are doing skincare, it will be like shop skincare in the top rather than just shop and then underneath a big list. And then obviously we've talked about the product photography, making sure that top one is like a really nice showing of your, like either your bestseller or a collection of your products or something, or a video. And having some of your bestsellers is also good to have in your homepage. I tend to put them fairly near the top. With Shopify, you can get them to order automatically by bestseller, but quite often you'll have a load of bestsellers which are very similar products. So you can actually go in and manually adjust your bestseller list. So you can move some of the things up, so you're not stuck with like shampoo. Be like, okay, I'll just move the best-selling conditioner up. You can sort of like play with it a little bit and just give a bit more of a spread of your products. So it's quite an easy way of showing some of your products really early on. Reviews, always important, bit of social proof. Yeah, just having a review carousel on the homepage is always very important. And then I noticed quite a few people in their footer leave out their policies.
Right.
They don't have all the sort of standard ones and they're very easy to get, like with Shopify, which will apply to all, anybody could use them. They have free templates. But you need your shipping policy, returns, and terms and conditions and privacy policy. And you should just have those in your footer.
They're there.
It's a very simple thing to add. So lots of people overlook adding that to their footer. I've had quite a few people where I've been like, why? Why is that in there? How do people know how much it is?
I suppose that all just helps with the conversion, right? It helps with people to have that trust and help.
Absolutely. It's all about gaining people's trust. And if they trust you and they kind of like you, then they're more likely to buy. So I also like to add like a little story snippet on that homepage as well, with like so it links through to the homepage. So it's a little bit more of like you as a person who's founded this business and sort of why you founded it to start with, because the founder story is always like quite inspiring.
Yeah.
And often just sort of hidden. So I think it's really nice to have a picture, a face to put to the business with a little bit of like a why, because it's often the why that you've done that is the why that people are buying it. That you can
Mm-hmm.
say, you can get some, I can't think of the word, but connection. There we go.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a good point. I love that. The why that you're doing your business for is the why that people are buying, or the reason that they buy.
Yeah.
And so don't hide it.
Yeah. Don't hide it. Never hide it.
Yeah, whenever I look at people's websites and they don't have a picture of themselves, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And I love what you said up there about making it really clear. Just kind of going back to the whole piece about the carousel on the first image on the homepage, because I suppose that's probably your first biggest leak of people, right? That they come onto the
Yeah.
homepage and they bounce off immediately.
Yeah. If they
And so
can't
if you can,
see necessarily what they want, or like
yeah,
you're not aligning with what they thought you were,
yeah,
and they'll be off.
yeah.
You only get a few seconds to convince them. We're very fickle.
I always remember seeing a shop and it was on the homepage, they had a lovely photo of a rose, but they didn't sell roses. It was just like they thought, oh, this is a nice image. But it's like,
Oh,
no, show me what you sell.
yeah. What do you want me to buy?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
So when it comes to driving conversion, then how important is mobile, and what should small businesses be checking for when it comes to their mobile, the website on mobile?
Mobile is so important, but it's because most people will edit and build their websites on their desktop, it
Mm.
can be a little bit overlooked. And you do have, like, in Shopify, I think you probably have it in other, I think you can get it in like on the browser tools as well, where you can look at your website on different screen sizes,
Yes.
which is not 100% proof, and it's not a replacement for an actual phone. But as a first part, quite good to check. And just to make sure that your site is loading fast enough, because I don't know, the doom scroll is a real thing. So if you're not quick enough, it's just,
Yeah.
if it doesn't load, they'll just go do something else. And again, having like that navigation that works on a mobile, because sometimes, again, on Shopify, sorry, this is Shopify specific, you can have a different navigation for your mobile as you do on your desktop on some of the
Oh, right.
themes.
Okay.
So on a desktop, you've got like a couple of drop downs which won't work on a mobile, because you'll have to click through a few times. So
Yeah.
just to make sure your navigation works on both platforms, like it's no use it looking really lovely on your desktop if it's not going to get people through to the product pages on a mobile. Yeah, and then text sizes is really important. Quite often people forget to let text sizes, if it's teeny tiny, people can't read it necessarily quite so easily. Yeah, so I would check all those things, product pages, and also I had quite a good test where if you have to pinch your screen by it, like to find the button, you don't want to have to pinch or scroll sideways. Sometimes it's not quite fitting.
Yes.
That applies more, I'd say, to platforms and not Shopify, the Shopify like official themes. But that's definitely something to check. You don't have to pinch or like scroll sideways to like get to your add to cart button.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I always remember a story of someone saying that they'd done some work on their website, and what had happened was that it meant that there's something over the add to cart button in their mobile version, but they didn't realize it for ages because they were just, were waiting on, just like noticed their sales had dropped off and they just hadn't checked. And then eventually they took a look and they realized what had happened, but it was like,
actually can't buy it.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
these are really dropping off at my product page?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating. They are fiddly. They can be fiddly, and sometimes websites just do stuff, and you're like, why? Like, I don't know why it's doing that, but yeah. So it's definitely worth checking every single page, and obviously especially your product pages and your checkout cart and checkouts.
Just to kind of wrap us up, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, right, I'm not ready for a full web design, but I really want to improve my conversion, what can I do differently? What would maybe be 2 or 3 small tweaks that they could make right now to improve conversion?
I would say like changing your add to cart button color.
Okay.
The built-in on Shopify, and probably on all of them, you don't necessarily think about it and it doesn't really stand out. It will get hidden, especially because you've got like either Apple Pay or Shop or something else your button is fighting with to stand out. Is to give it a pop of color, basically, is to make it really obvious and bring it up the page, like go above the description. When they land on the page, they can go like, okay, I want that done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd say improve and reorder your description, your product description slowly. If you have a big catalog, obviously, but start with like your bestsellers, is to like try and sort of make it into bite-sized sections so people can like skim read it and get the gist of like what your product does, that's where the benefit-led thing comes in. So make sure that's right at the top. So you'll lose people's attention if you have like, I've seen people have like really chunky descriptions where everything's in there, like shipping, ingredients, size, it's all in this one massive block of text, which is just unreadable to people. So going in and like separating it out and making sure people can get what they need out of it quickly is really good. I'd say those two things.
Is that where it's useful to have the buttons where you can click to expand it?
Yeah, the expanding ones. So I tend to put like material, size, ingredients, they all have their own little tabs. So that it's quite intuitive to find them. People know where to look for them. So they just scroll down and a little browse through there.
Yeah. Okay. I love that about the pop of color. That's really interesting. So making it stand out, moving it higher up, making your descriptions easier to read, easier to understand. And of course, as we've touched on, make sure that you're happy with your photography.
Yes, of course. And your photography, very important.
How quickly do you see changes to conversion? I suppose, is it pretty much instantaneous?
If it's the same, so it really depends. I mean, I've done them where they have been just changed almost immediately. I've just gone up by like 1 or 2%, which is amazing. Like that, but that's with that was with like a theme redesign. So quite often people come to me having done the first stage of their business with their website and they're like, okay, we're ready to step it up now.
Yeah.
And they have built their audience and grown and stuff. The redesign just, I don't know, it just cements them as sort of, I don't know, gives them maybe a bit more like trust, the trust aspect sort of thing, because it's sort of laid out a little bit differently and all the trust elements are there, which weren't necessarily there before.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Really fabulous to talk to you. And do you want to finish off by telling people where they can find out more about working with you?
Yeah, you can find me on webdesignandstuff.com. That's my website. Same handle for Instagram. Always happy to have a chat. Yeah. And you can book a call if you want to have a chat about your website via my Calendly link, which is also on my website.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have a moment to rate and review the podcast inside Apple Podcasts, that would be amazing. And if you like, follow, or subscribe, depending on the platform that you're listening to, you'll be the first to know about every new episode, which comes out every Thursday morning. See you next week.